How's your mental health? Today, we're not gonna lie. Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of NGL. Today we've got a really special episode in light of World Mental Health Day. We want to come together to talk about mental wellness. And you know, mental wellness is such an important topic, and we really thought that there would be no better time than now to open up this conversation. So today we are actually here to share some personal stories of what it's like to live with some mental health struggles that each of us have. And I think it's going to be a pretty personal episode, but we really wanted to do this to open up a safe space for conversation so that if you're struggling and you listen to something like that, hopefully it can help you find some sense of comfort and companionship. But even if you are not struggling in this, hopefully listening to what we share will help you to catch a glimpse into what it's like living with some of these struggles we have, right? So before we jump into our episode proper, I just want to give a little bit of a trigger warning. In today's episode, we will be talking about some things like self-harm, suicide, anxiety regarding death and sickness. And so if these are topics that are triggering for you and you are not in the right headspace to listen to something like that right now, please feel free to just press pause and head to another one of our episodes and come back another time when you're in a better headspace to listen to something like that. So with that, I want to introduce our two guests for today. Maybe you can let us know what's your name and you can say hi to our audience.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Zheng Kai.
Everybody, my name is Ash.
All right, so Zheng Kai and Ash, we have the privilege of getting two guy guests here today. I'm pretty excited because I do feel like we don't get to hear the male perspective on mental health very often, but today we get to hear your stories. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to talk about what it's like to live, particularly with anxiety and depression, right? So Ash and Zheng Kai, maybe you guys can begin by telling us what your journey has been like so far. When did it start? What are you struggling with and things like that?
I think this happened when I was in JC2. So I won't reveal my age, but that's some years ago. So what happened in JC2 was the big picture was that I was accused of a crime. So while I was still studying, everything happened very quickly. So, it was a typical school day. I went to class. It was like after morning assembly. It was an 8 a.m. class. The moment I entered the class, my form teacher suddenly came into the class and said like, hey, actually the principal want to talk to you. So I didn't know what it was about, but then I just went. I chatted with my principal. I found out that apparently I was being accused of a crime. So we spent a good 2 hours just chatting and, talking about the situation. At the point in time, I was quite sure that I didn't do anything. So I was still like pretty calm, like, okay, let's see where this goes. So we chatted from like 8 to 10 a.m. And then 10 a.m. I was let go back to class. But by then, I think already some doubt and confusion started being within me, like, okay, did I do it? Did I not do it? I started to become very confused. So I went back to class, like 5 minutes later, I went back to the principal, say, hey, actually, I'm quite confused. I have no idea what's going on. And the principal directed me to the school counselor. So, 8 to 10 principal, then 10 to 12, I was talking to the school counselor, and the school counselor was saying like, oh, maybe it didn't happen, but if you keep thinking about it, maybe it induces and reinforces certain thoughts within you. So we chatted until 12. And then 12, I found out that the police was in school to talk to me. So I went back to the principal's office. I chatted with the police until like 1 plus p.m. And then the police wanted me to go down the next day to the police headquarters to give a statement. And then 1 plus, my parents came to school to fetch me back home. And then, so everything happened very, very quickly. Next day, I just went down to the police headquarters. I told them, that exactly what I felt. That at first, I was quite sure I didn't do it. And then I became confused. Now I'm not sure whether I did it or not. And it was like that. So by the time I left the police headquarters, I think there wasn't a very clear, definite date or result about what's going to happen to me. But the police left me there and said, they'll do their investigations and they will get back to me again when there is a resolution. So I think that whole episode left me very, very confused because of the sheer pace that everything progressed. I had no time to process anything at all. what in the world is going on? Like 8 a.m. it was a normal school day. Suddenly my life is like upside down. I'm going to police headquarters the next day. So just the sheer pace of everything and the whole confusion, I think it got me very, very stressed. And I would say for the few months after that, I fell into depression for a number of reasons. Because firstly, like I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And growing up in those days, you watch like MediaCorp dramas and all that. They have this like, it's a lot better now, but they used to paint this negative like connotation. Oh, go to jail, come out, cannot do anything. Your life is screwed and everything. So I think that reinforced a lot of like, okay, I really don't want to go to jail. And what's going to happen if I'm going to jail? There were a lot of these what if questions that were happening within me. I think you can relate as well, and so that for those few months, it was that kind of uncertainty, the anxiety, that those depressed feelings that really led to a number of manifestations within me. I mean, firstly, it led me to do self-harm. So it's quite funny. I mean, I'm quite tall. I'm seated down. I'm not sure if it can be seen. I'm quite tall. But I don't know why the teachers put me in the front row of the class. But even within the front row of the class, right, while the lessons are ongoing, I'll take a scissors and cut myself on the arm. And this happened regularly, like in class, at home, anywhere. And those thoughts were so dark. They were very, very dark thoughts. So, and then it wasn't just that. I think the other thing was also it led me to have suicidal ideation. I recall some nights I can carve myself on the arm, and actually the risk is just there. It's all I have to do is flip and I can cut it. And I'm not sure how true it is. You cut, you die from bleeding, but that's what TV dramas say anyway. It was like all these thoughts that were ongoing, and it went on for quite a few months because there was no news from the police. And amidst all the confusion, the physical self-harm, the suicidal ideation, I recall very clearly that one thing I was very sure of, and I held it firmly within me, right, that if the end result is that I'm going to go to jail, I would rather die.
Did anyone ask you?
So yes, definitely. So the thing is, while all those were happening, I was still in school. I didn't drop out from school. I was still serving in the exco for my like CCA and so on. So clearly I had a lot of close interactions with friends in school. Quite a few of them saw the scars. But maybe I was like that lah. JC not so mature, right? They'll just be like, "Hey, you emo and they just brush me off like kind of like that, But there were some friends who were a bit more concerned. They saw the scars and really asked, if I was okay. But honestly, back then maybe for fear of I don't know what they would think of me, or maybe perhaps because I don't even have answers for myself as to what is going on. Why am I feeling this way? I didn't open up really to many people at all. Maybe I recall maybe just one or two people I kind of shared briefly what was going on. And they did show concern. One of them said they'll pray for me. I remember till this day. But there was really nothing much they could do because I also didn't have
They probably
answers.
also don't know what to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to ask a bit more about that whole experience of self-harm, right? Because I do remember that back when I was in school, I mean, we did have friends also lah who kind of like self-harmed and all. And I remember that there would always be two main thoughts. Like when people talk about them secretly or whatever it is, right? You would either assume that they are emo, or you would wonder whether they are attracting attention, right? So, were those thoughts that were directed to you? Were there people talking about you behind your back? Did you know?
Not that I was aware of, but of course, like I said, some friends who saw, they just asked me, hey, is it I emo? Perhaps like as almost with a tone of wanting to trivialize, like, hey, maybe it's not as serious as they think it is, or perhaps maybe just out of they don't know what I'm going through, and of course internally within me, of course I don't think I did it to attract attention per se, but the fact that I put it on the arm, I knew that people were going to see, and perhaps internally I did want people to ask.
It was a cry for help?
it was a cry for help that perhaps it's in a different representation. Like verbally, I didn't know how to tell people what I was feeling and ask for help. But perhaps that was a way for people to for me to want people to care for me. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Ash, do you relate with like some of the stuff that Zheng Kai was sharing?
I relate a bit, but I don't struggle with depression. I struggle more with anxiety. Basically, what happened for me is that 2 years back, my dad had cancer. It was a very huge blow. It just suddenly came out of nowhere. And it just really felt like my world just crashed. Suddenly one day it just crashed. So after going through the whole like chemotherapy, it was very smooth. It was better than expected. So I thought, from there on, like, oh, okay, maybe actually this whole thing is better than I thought it's better than I thought it was going to be, and so from then on, I thought like, okay, I think the fear of losing a loved one is slowly dying away. Yeah. But then on the week of my birthday, something even worse happened. That he had to be hospitalized. And during that week, I remember like the fear just like creeped in me and just like grew like so fast in that the day that I got the news that he had to be sent to the hospital, I just like, I felt there's this like your whole body just tense up. Your mind just starts to race everywhere. It's a bit like how you relate, like what do I do? Like you just want the answers. You just want the answers straight away from your those around you. So I kept asking my mom like, what's happening to him? What's going on? He's like breathing hard. He's like having chest pains and everything. He's having high fever, and for a chemo patient, fever is like a no go lah. So I remember just asking and asking and asking in hopes of getting an answer, and during the asking, like I would break down, and then just like that feeling of like hopelessness like overwhelmed me lah. Yeah, like there's no answer to it. So like it's not gonna be okay. Yeah. So when they sent me to the hospital, I was left alone, and it's really like a dark week because that was the week of my birthday. I remember for 3 nights, every single night I would cry, and just cry and cry and cry, just laying in the bed, looking up, turning side to side, and just like all the tears just start coming up. Yeah, I don't think I've ever cried as much in my life before. Just like, wow. Yeah. I think it was because like you feel very helpless. You knew that there's nothing you can do about it to make it better, and he's all the way in the hospital, and I'm here like I can't do anything. Like I'm the son, I should do something, but that feeling of helplessness just like it just suffocated me. Thankfully, he was okay. They found out what's wrong, and on my birthday, he came back home, and we celebrated. We also celebrated his remission from cancer as well. Yeah, so I thought life was smooth from then on. Like okay, this problem is gone. This issue is gone. Life is like smooth sailing once again. Yeah, but fear had such a deep root in me because of this that whenever my mom or my dad tells me something that's happening to them, like dad feels tired, mom feels very dizzy today, mom has a pain in the leg, things like that, I will immediately that whole trauma from those very painful moments will just start to come back, and then I will link everything to cancer. So my mind just goes straight to there. Like something's wrong with your body, there's cancer is spread. Something's happening to your stomach, or you feel a pain. Even for my mom as well. Yeah, because I think it was such a huge change in my life, that every association with pain or the symptoms that are similar, when you get fever, you go to like WebMD, then you see like,
WebMD is the worst. Everything is cancer.
Yeah, like I got flu. Oh my god, I got cancer. Yeah, I got nose cancer. I got leg pain. Skin cancer. Whatever lah. Yeah, so I think it's because of that I kept looking at the symptoms, that it reinforced this thought that this is what's happening to them, even though it's not true. but my mind would just link everything to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you feel like it's something you cannot control? Like it just has a life of its own?
yeah. So I guess at that moment, because I didn't understand where this fear stemmed from, it was just there. So
Yeah.
I didn't have a way of processing this.
Like you cannot rationalize your way through it.
I was just looking through the lens of like this whole saga, like pain, cancer, and so everything my mind links everything to that. Yeah, it's not that I didn't want to. Of course, like I don't want to link everything to cancer, but it just like automatically went there instantly, and that's why I started to feel worry, like my body will tense up again. Even something as simple as like, daddy's tired. Yeah. Like, oh no, tired means something's wrong. You know. So it will hold, like it would stay in me until I get an answer. Yeah, I will start to breathe very hard. I will start to think about a lot of outcomes. I overthink a lot, and I start to like just want to do something about it. Yeah, I don't want to
Was it
feel helpless again.
frustrating for you to like constantly be in that state of worry?
Yeah, so I guess that tired me out a lot.
Like
physically, emotionally, mentally. Physically, I guess is still okay, at least for myself, because you know if you feel tired or you feel damn sian, just go to sleep, go to take a nap. But emotionally and mentally, it was a lot worse, because mentally it's like, this again. Why am I so worried? Why am I so like? Is my mental health that weak? You know,
Did
It's
you label
unending, right?
Sorry?
It's unending. Like you
Yeah.
think about the what if, it's another what if, it's another
yeah, just
what
like
if.
yourself,
Yeah.
it's just what ifs after what ifs
Yeah.
after what ifs.
But did you know to label it anxiety? Or to you it's just like, how come I cannot stop worrying?
Yeah, I guess at that moment I didn't know it was like anxiety yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just like, why am I so worried?
Okay.
Yeah, why am I so fearful about this? And like, it's something so trivial, you know. Yeah, so mentally it affected me that way, and I started to, I guess in a way, get sick and tired of me always reacting this way. And so it's like a battle within myself. Like on one hand, the strong man wants to like, everything's gonna be alright, everything's gonna be okay. But on the other hand, there's that weaker man who just like succumbs to all these things. And like, why are you like this? Like you're supposed to be stronger than this. Like, why do you keep falling into this again? Yeah, and on top of the what ifs, on top of all these things, on top of all the thoughts, it just pulls you down deeper. And emotionally, you start to feel a lot more like the anxiety will make you feel a little bit sad and a little bit like low mood lah. Yeah, not really to the stage of depression, but you just feel like there's no joy in you anymore. You just like the life can get sucked out of you just from one message from them. Yeah, oh, he's not feeling well. Boom, your whole day is like ruined. But I guess for me, what helped was that I got, or at least what helped for me is that I got an answer from it. So for example, like let's say there was this season where there's this time where my dad was tired. Then I was a bit like, oh, why is he tired again? Is there something wrong? And then after that, my mom told me like, oh, he went to change the pipe. I went to fix the pipe. Then in my head, I was like, okay, I'm relieved. But at the same time, I went like, huh? Like that also worried. like that.
Like frustrated at yourself.
Yeah, like that only, like, you worry for what?
Right.
Yeah, why are we so worried about that? Yeah, it just, he fixed the pipe. Then it starts to link, you know, in your head. He fixed the pipe, he's tired, you know, it's a lot of manual work. And yeah, he's tired. Why did I link it to cancer or something else, you know? Yeah, so I get more frustrated at myself because of this. And it repeated and repeated and repeated. So I remember this time I just kept saying like, wow, I'm so tired. I'm so tired that this thing keeps happening and happening and happening again. And there was no freedom from this. Yeah.
Wow, I relate with what you said. Not because I struggle with anxiety. So in some sense, it's quite refreshing for me to... Okay, not refreshing. That's quite a bad word when we're talking about mental health struggle, right? But interesting for me to hear you share your story, because I think I don't have a very clear understanding of what it's really like to live with anxiety. For me, it was more of like struggling with depression. I have never really been officially like diagnosed because I've never sought like professional help. But there were seasons in my life where I fell into very, very, very low moods, and I know that it's not me. Like, because by nature, actually, as a person, I'm quite like bubbly. I'm quite optimistic. I think you ask anybody who has known me for my entire life, right? They will probably tell you that I'm quite cheerful as a person. Yeah, so like when I first kind of fell into that, sometime in JC also, something wrong with the system. Like I think in J2, like I suddenly ended up in this period of time where I just feel super low, and I couldn't trace why. So that actually was super frustrating for me because like for you guys there was a clear trigger.
Yeah.
Like there was an incident or an event that caused that, right? For me, I really didn't have it. So I was just like, walao, I already so stressed with school. I got so many problems. Then inside me also got this problem coming up, right? So I didn't really know what was happening. But how I would describe it to people eventually when I shared, right, is that it always just felt like a dark cloud that came over me. And I say that because I feel it is not my natural self. So it really feels like something comes over me and weighs me down and I just can't get out of it.
Yeah.
So when I'm with people, right, like actually I'm very okay and I'm extremely normal. I don't have any dark thoughts or feelings of sadness, heaviness. But the minute people leave and like I'm alone, right, immediately this feeling will come. So I remember this particular day. This was like, I think more than 10 years ago, and I remember it till this day. My friend came over to my house to bake, right? And so we had like a really, really good day together. We were laughing. I still have the photos and videos till this day. And so it was a very nice day. Eventually, when she had to go home, I walked her off to the MRT station. And I remember clearly that the minute she tapped in and she walked in, I turned and began to walk home, right? The feeling came back again. And I was so irritated because I just felt like there was nothing that could have caused me to feel badly, right? Then how come like I just cannot shake this feeling off? There was another day I remember coming back from school, and I think because I travelled home alone, right? So on the way home, I was already feeling very low and very down. And I think when I stepped into my house, like it was clear from my face lah. So apparently, like my dad picked up on it. Then he asked me like whether I was okay, but I refused to like tell them that I'm going through this, right? So I just like, yeah, I'm okay. Then after I went to the toilet and I cried for 1 hour. Then like shower and clean everything off my face and then go to my room and do my homework. So like, I don't know. I think for me it was always very confusing as to why I was going through something like that. And because it was confusing, I was very frustrated. Like I didn't know where it came from, so I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't like being in this state, but it felt like there was nothing I could do about it. And because I don't understand it, I don't even know how to begin telling people about what I'm going through. And I don't know why, but there was even a weird sense of shame about it. Like, when I consider like wanting to tell my best friend what I'm going through, right? Like, it's not even that I can't find the right words to say. It's just like, I don't know why, like where this sense of shame came from, but it just felt very paiseh to like have to tell somebody that like this is something that I'm going through, like I feel very low. So I think that kind of in some sense trapped me in it for a while, where I knew that something was clearly not okay, but I didn't really know how to say it. But eventually I did come to a point where I opened up to her about it. I told her like this is something that I'm going through. I had no explanation for it. So I thought if you ask me why, I have no answer. But like this is just something that I'm going through and I don't understand. And yeah, I just thought that I should tell somebody about it. And I remember that she just sat with me outside this like room in school, right? And then we just sat at the bench and I just cried and cried and cried and cried. And then all she did was sat there and then she put her hand on me and she looked at me. And then I just like yeah, so but I think that in itself like kind of gave me some form of like release and help.
Yeah.
So just being able to talk about it like lifted some of the burden. But it didn't really go away completely. So this particular episode kind of ended after a while, but because it started out of nowhere and then it kind of ended on its own, right? Like actually after the whole thing I was just very, very confused. Like I had no idea why I was like that. And because I had no answers, I think I kind of lived in a bit of a fear of it coming back. So along my uni years, like there were some times where generally I think when I'm very stressed and then when I'm a bit more isolated in that period of time, right, these feelings do come back. And when it starts to come back, right, I feel scared because I feel like, oh no, maybe it will come back again and I have no idea what caused it to go away the previous time. So if it comes back this time, right, like I don't have the handles to deal with it. With that fear, right, also came fears about the future, like what if next time when I get married and then I get pregnant, right, and then after I give birth, then I fall into postnatal depression, how like my mind really goes all the way there. And like I don't know, man. Like I was just like scared lah. So I think this happened quite a bit throughout my uni years. And it didn't really resolve itself, maybe because I didn't really seek help. Then sometime in the previous few years, like in 2019, I actually fell into a pretty intense period of loneliness. So it's I would say it's the most serious one so far. And this one I could identify the triggers. I think I was in a period of time in my life where I was experiencing some friendship issues. Then at the same time, my grandmother passed away, and it was very difficult for me because I actually was by her side when she took her last breath. So I was the one that I was in the room with my aunts, right? And then my grandma kind of stopped breathing, and I think my aunts couldn't deal, and they didn't know how to deal with it, right? So I was just witnessing the entire breakdown, and then they asked me to like ascertain whether or not she's alive. So it was just a very weird place to be in. I think that feeling and that sight stuck with me for a very long time because I'm a very visual person. So there was that. Then at the same time, I think I was experiencing some very difficult relationships in my life where there were some people who were struggling with their own mental health, and then because of that, I was kind of bearing the brunt of their volatility and their their outbursts lah. So I think all of this combined together made it an extremely bad recipe and a very, very bad place for me to be mentally. So I think that kind of tips me over the edge, and I fell into this period of time where I was just very low. I would wake up and just stare at the ceiling and not really want to do anything. I had no appetite, which is extremely rare for me because like I love to eat. So the minute I don't want to eat, like something is wrong with me. So I think there were these signs. But at the same time, because as a person, I'm quite high functioning. So actually nobody knew. And I didn't look it. I can still joke. I can still laugh. I still go to work. I still talk a lot of rubbish. But then nobody knows lah. That actually in the morning when I wake up and at night when I lie on my bed, right, I just feel so low and I just don't want to do anything with my life. So I think this went on for quite a while. And it was one of the most difficult times that I was in lah. So I'll share more about it later. But I just wanted to kind of ask you also, like, I don't know, as you went through like what you went through with your dad and for you navigating that whole like incident in JC, right? Like, did it get better at some point? And what was that whole journey like? Because I'm sure that it was very frustrating. It was very tiring. I think seeking help probably looked different for different people, right? So what was that journey like for you, Ash, lah, maybe? Did it get better at some point?
I think at that time, like, it still rested in me. This fear rested in me. Every day I was on edge. But there came a time whereby my dad's health issues slowly kind of got better. And so it's like, oh, okay, it's been a while since something happened. Maybe everything is okay. It doesn't happen overnight like this, but I guess the feeling just sort of subsided. It's like, oh, okay, everything's fine now. And then this year was the year that kind of I kind of like decided that this was the year I learned how to breathe again. I learned how to relax a little bit, learn how to take breaks, learn how to get my mind off fear and this and things like that. So I thought, okay, this year, maybe I'll go on a retreat. I'll just remember to take charge of my mental health first. So okay, this year is going to be a very restful year. So started the year very nice, Then I went to reservist. So I thought that going for reservist would be, oh, okay, I'm out of family, I'm out of work, I'm going to be man mode for the next 1.5 weeks. You tell me what to do, I do, I come, I go home, I'm going to be brainless for 1.5 weeks. So I thought it was going to be real chill, take our mind off work. But it was really the contrary of what I expected things to unfold, What happened that week, the first week that I went in, I think it was a Thursday. On a Thursday, I got an anxiety attack in camp. One of the weirdest places to get anxiety attack, but it came. Like I was in the classroom, just doing nothing, minding my own business, just sitting there. Then suddenly I felt very nauseous. Felt very weird. It's like, why do I feel so weird? Like something's not right, you know. I started to feel like bloating and things like that. I just started to feel very on edge. I really felt very choked out. I was breathing very hard. I said, like, okay, I need to go and sit down. Can you guys get me a cup of water? So I went to sit down. I was still breathing and breathing. Yeah, and then they released me to the medical bay, and I just laid there, you know, on the bed. It's like, this was supposed to be the year that I breathed properly, and the complete opposite of breathing happened, where I feel like I was being suffocated. Like, what's going on? Yeah, I really like this question was in my head, like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
What's going on? What triggered it? Yeah. And I think it was due to the fact that because there was nothing on my mind, that this fear had complete freedom to release itself. Like, I had nothing to distract it with, and it just came out. Yeah.
Which is interesting, right? Because your fear used to be triggered by thoughts.
Yeah.
So now when you have no thoughts,
That's how I was like,
then you got fear.
like,
Like you can't win, what, brother?
yeah, I cannot win. It's there. So, yeah, so I was really on the bed. I was like, there's nothing here that's triggering me. There's like, family is okay, you know, like I just feel like maybe like maybe I just feel tired, or maybe the tiredness kind of linked it back to, you know, this whole thing again. So like, what happened, you know? So a friend, she said, maybe it's because you really have nothing on your mind, and that's why it came out. Yeah, so like what you said, I can never win.
Do you think it's because, right, when you finally get to relax, then everything can come out in full force? You get what I mean? In some weird way, because when you are tense, you maybe in some sense have some control.
Yeah. So
Is
like,
that how it works?
I think when I was caught off guard, I was too relaxed. Then just chilling, then suddenly, boom, came out. Yeah. But I kind of understood by what she said that really I have nothing on my mind to distract me with, and that's why it just came out on this full force. Yeah. And so I thought things were going to get better, but this was like the lowest of low I've ever been. I've never suffered a anxiety or panic attack before. So this was very fresh to me. I was like, oh, this is not good.
Was
This
it very
is really-
discouraging?
Yeah, it felt like the fear won. At the moment I was on bed, and then I went home also. I just like, wow, I feel defeated. I feel like you know, like it was a very strategic fight in the ring. Like I was caught off guard, and then it just like punched me in the face. It just like uppercut me, and then like I'm just there like all bruises everywhere, and I just felt like, wow, the fear won. Like I lost. Yeah.
I like that picture you painted of like you being in that ring and you being beaten off guard, right? Like, what did that look like for you after that moment, you know? Did you get up? Did you stay on the floor in the ring and just like lie there in shock?
Stay defeated.
Stay defeated.
Yeah.
Just stay down. Don't
Because I
move.
think it's a very real experience. Like,
Yeah.
especially because you've always had those feelings, but you've never actually had a full-blown panic attack, right? So, if I was you, honestly, like, this would make me feel like, oh my gosh, this is the start of something new, and in
Yeah.
the most terrible way.
Yeah. The next few days, like I was at home, I really felt weak. Like weak for no reason also. Like I remember waking up and I just felt so lethargic. Like I have enough rest. I'm well rested. I didn't go out. I took MC, so like again I have like complete freedom to like rest at home. Like I just don't want to do anything. I just want to like lay in bed and not
And
think
you feel
about
like if
anything.
something happens, you cannot fight it already.
Yeah, I feel like it won. Sun was shining, clouds were there, birds were chirping, but
But not on you.
yeah, not on me. It's like rain and like darkness, you know.
There was that firm conviction of wanting to die if I'm going to go to jail, but yet there was that tiny glimmer of, if there's a way out of this, I want to cling on to it.
Now what it looks like for me is that, okay, family's going through something, let's wait for the results to come out. Like, I still feel a bit anxious, but it's not the full blast of it.
But somewhere along the journey, I think I kind of had a bit of a paradigm shift that I don't think hope is really found in the light at the end of the tunnel, but in who is with me on this journey.